This House is in session. Prior to the suspension on Wednesday, the 11th of March, 2026, the Honourable Chamber was in Standing Finance Committee debating the Appropriation Bill 2026. We return to the Appropriation Bill 2026. You want this? You can have it. Which one you have it? You want to do after? You want to do after? You want to do after? You want to do this now? I didn't know that we said. Oh, yeah, man.
You don't know. Speaker, we revert to government business.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In these estimates of revenue and expenditure, we have actually reached 38 hours out of the 32 minutes out of the 40 hours allocated. I therefore beg to move that Standing Order 66-1, which provides for a maximum of 40 hours being allocated for the examination of the estimates in Standing Finance Committee, be suspended at this stage, and therefore I beg to move that this standing order be suspended.
The question is that Standing Order 66, subsection 1, be suspended for the remainder of the sitting. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. Standing Order 66, subsection 1 is hereby suspended. We revert to Standing Finance Committee.
Put it already. Put it already there.
This Honourable House is now in Standing Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, Ministry of Sports and Community Empowerment.
Honourable Member for St. John.
Chair, I seek your permission to take leave and to ask my team to join me in the Well of Parliament.
Permission so granted.
Mr. Chairman, Head 51, Ministry of Sports and Community Empowerment, in the amount of $56,660,305.
Honourable Member for St. John.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, today I'm pleased to be here with my small team, Sports and Community Empowerment, to deal with the matters relating to still maybe our young people and community.
Honourable Member, permit me to give the instructions to your team. You are already familiar with those instructions, but I will repeat for your benefit and the benefit of members of the House. Honourable Minister, you have 10 minutes to give an overview of the strategic goals of your ministry. The members of your team can participate in this debate under your instruction with regards to questions that are posed. Each member is asked that before they answer the question, you will have to give your name and the position within the ministry for the records of this House. Honourable members of the House will be familiar with the process in that you have one question initially, and in your response to that question, you posing that question, you will have the opportunity thereafter to pose three supplementary questions related to the original question that was posed. You have 3 minutes, honourable members, to respond to the question. The honourable minister will have 5 minutes to respond to any question that was posed, or the opportunity to direct that question to any member of his team, and that member of the team has 3 minutes to answer the question. Honourable member, you will proceed.
Thank you, Chair. First, Chair, I must say thank you to my constituents in St. John for sending me back to work. In relation to the task at hand, I will speak first about community development. And community development, as in the other sections of the ministry, is using a proactive approach in terms of how we reach individuals in the communities. We have started a process called the Center Management Committee, that provides an opportunity now for communities to own, so to speak, the community centers in relation to programming at those particular locations. Only yesterday, I believe I was or Wednesday, at a function at the Glebe, where a mixology program was put in place to benefit individuals from within the environs of the Glebe. And we're continuing to do work in terms of projects to impact at community level. The Community Independent Secretariat, another section of my ministry that is a year-round activity where we empower, in the first instance, 22 youngsters to be ambassadors for their parish. And I think that you have an idea of that because of the success that is coming from your constituency. And we continue to grow the program. We continue to impact at a level that I think I am satisfied. And again, like the other programs within the ministry, we try to be proactive in terms of coming with new ideas to make that particular program relevant. The third section of the ministry is sports. And the sports project on Island is one that I would say is alive and well. We have embarked on a number of ambitious projects in terms of the infrastructure to ensure that our athletes have what I would say the best possible chance to do podium at the regional and international level. We have done work in relation to permit me, Chair, to go back and maybe ask myself some questions. And I look particularly at the 2022 Manifesto of Government, and look at what was embedded in the manifesto as it relates to the sports project on island. Complete work started on the national sports policy, a box that we can tick because that is already in place. Complete the much desired redevelopment of the Barbados National Stadium, and only this morning I saw an article highlighting the fact that work is at a serious stage in relation to that. We had the Ministerial project, developed 15 mini stadia across the island, work already completed. Prioritize the further development of the Wildy as a multidiscipline sporting center in Barbados. Box tick, we have now a volleyball facility, 400 track almost completed, multi-purpose facility for badminton and squash already in place. So, Chair, the sports project is alive and well. Currently, we have at least 6 major infrastructure projects that are happening. We continue to do work as it relates to the community through the Community Coaches Program that seeks to provide coaches with an opportunity to be able to go back and give back to communities. Recently, we would have started again the beach football tournament that saw in excess of 350 individuals participating in that particular discipline. And note that this was going parallel to the Prime Minister's Cup. So I'm satisfied at this point that government is doing what it is that we are tasked with doing. I would say to you that at least $50 million in infrastructural projects and other areas in sports is currently on the table. And I dare anyone to say that this government is making sports at sports. With those few words, I beg that Head 51 stand par.
The question is that Head 51 stand par. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it. Honorable member for Christchurch West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Minister and your team. I'm going to ask questions as relates to fields and development of sporting facilities and fields around Barbados. And I'm going to come to the one, of course, I have great interest in St. Matthias. And I want to thank you for starting the Pavilion Stroke Resource Center, but obviously the hard court and the rest of the field also has to be developed. So I would want you to discuss that with us. But before we do that, I happen to be in the parish of St. Lucie, and I saw a field, I think it's by the Ignatius Bayer School, and I noted that it didn't have any lights on it at all. And I was wondering, your lighting program, are there any plans at all to do the lighting of the field by Ignatius Bayer School?
Thank you, Honourable Member, for that question. We would have embarked on what I think is a very aggressive lighting program across the island. In most cases, what we're hoping to do is to ensure that all of the fields that are owned by the state are the ones that we put lights on first. And I think that we are doing a pretty good job of ensuring. We would have had to retrofit a number of locations. When I came to the ministry, there were a number of poles that were rotten and we had to replace them. I think that particular process is now completed, but I will ask Mr. Matthias to give you a more detailed answer in relation to the question that you're asking.
Good morning. Nicholas Matthias, Senior Superintendent of Works, National Sports Council. To answer your question, sir, the field and hard court specifically at St. Matthias, we were hoping to use some of the excavated material from the resource center to build up the field that we were going to put in place for the school and the surrounding district. But a lot of that material came out as that rocky, broken material. So we know we have to import material for that, and the hard court is as part of the plans to come along for that facility as well. So as you correctly said, we have broken ground and we are in the process of building out for the pavilion resource center itself, and we'll move on to the hard court with the car park, and the field we'll leave for last because that sort of landscaping will come under the landscaping aspect of it. For Ignatius Bayer, that was actually part of the original lighting program. The program itself was started, and about 7 fields did not make it into the program because of the expense based on the monies that we were given. But Ignatius Bayer is part of that program, and we are looking to continue it along with the other 7 that we would not have finished as part of the original program. So I can say yes, Ignatius Bayer, we have a good working relationship with the club and the school there, and we are definitely looking forward to seeing if we can get that done within this financial year.
Thank you, Ms. Matthias. Well, of course, it begs the question, now what are the other 7? So please enlighten us, because there are many of my colleagues, who may not have a chance to ask a question at this time, but we'll be very keen to know what the other 7 are. Please, thank you.
Yes, please, just give me a minute pulling that information for you now.
While he's checking, Minister, what I would say is that there is a program in place that we will systematically get to all of those fields. There's some fields that are not ours. For example, the YMCA, this was earmarked as a dedicated football field, but we know that we need to put lights on that particular location. So there is a systematic way that we're going about ensuring that all of the fields are lit, because it is one of the ways that we're going to grow the sports by having communities involved in the process. So if the pyramid at the bottom of sports is broad, then I think those diamonds in the rough will have an opportunity to rise to the top. Mr. Matthias?
Yes, please. So the 7 that are left for the original lighting project: Ignatius Bayer, St. Lucie; Crab Hill, St. Lucie; YMPC, Beckles Road, St. Michael; Lodge School, St. John; Queen's Park, St. Michael; Prout, St. Thomas; and Gemswick, St. Philip. Those are the 7 that are left of part of the original lighting project.
But I didn't hear the St. Matthias, so that will get nonetheless, of course.
We definitely will look into that, sir.
Okay. And then, of course, the final question then, Minister, has to do with the bleachers. Because I know you also had a bleachers project, and of course I want to be sure that we're going to get bleachers at St. Matthias, but how far are you with the bleachers, and where are you able to go next to be able to complete the bleachers for the rest of Barbados?
We have started the process of now importing, I think, some permanent bleachers that Mr. Matthias will also speak to, but we have in place the mobile ones that can move from location to location, and that has been working well in terms of providing communities and clubs with an opportunity to have additional seating when there's a particular tournament on. But the permanent ones, I know the pads were down in several locations, but I will allow Mr. Matthias to expand as far as that is concerned.
So the first set of bleachers, the first 50, which are the smaller portable ones, all of them are island. We are using them currently. The second set, 17 of the bigger bleachers seating 180 persons per set are on island. We are just waiting for the contractor that supplied it to us to send their dates for the supervision of installation. We have started the prep work in terms of the bases at all of the locations that are necessary for them. And essentially those locations are the ministerial locations. And that work has been started. Actually, more or less all the bases are completed. We're just waiting on the final dates with the supervisor of the the contractor that made them to come down so that they could supervise us installing here in London. But they are here, and we have them in our possession.
Thank you very much, Minister and your team. Obviously, we've been asking about this facility at St. Matthias now every year in estimates for about 3 years now. So obviously we're excited that it has started and looking forward to the completion within the next, what you said, 2 months? And I won't ask you to answer that question now because I think I'm putting you a little bit under the pressure. So Chairman, I yield back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member for St. James South.
Thank you, Chair, and a warm good morning to the Ministry. I want to congratulate you on the progress that you've made as a ministry in a number of areas. However, we know that there are a number that are still awaiting fulfillment. And I can say on behalf of the people of St. James South, there are some things that we are eagerly awaiting. Where we are as a country, we know that we're challenged in terms of ensuring that our youth are provided with proper outlets for their energy, proper outlets for their interests, and ensuring that they're doing positive things. And this is all part of keeping the fabric of our society whole. And the issue of access to sports and sporting facilities is very important. My question has to do with the state of play in relation to, for example, the lights that we need to have on the grounds. Our challenge in St. James South is that they need some realignment because you really cannot see to do night programs in the middle of the field. You really can't see the ball. The other issue that we have is access to the exercise equipment. We haven't had that as yet. And we have a couple of facilities that require access to changing rooms. But the biggest need, our biggest need, is a community center. In our area, there is no community center where activities can take place. And we have been requesting from the ministry some assistance to be able to renovate a building to allow us to be able to provide the community, which between St. James South and St. James Central represents some 3,000 to 4,000 people in need of that community center. So I just want to get from the ministry, what are the plans to deal with these issues in St. James South? And when can we anticipate a start to the implementation of those plans for the people? As you know, we have some troubled areas, and therefore a fast track on this is really critical for helping us to lay a hold of our communities and focus in the powerful energy of our young people in a positive direction. So I would appreciate, and I know the people of St. James South would appreciate to hear it from you, as opposed to me promising when I don't have the power to actually implement. But with your power, I know that it will make a difference for them hearing it.
Thank you for the question, Honourable Member. Yes, first of all, let me deal with the focusing of the lights. From time to time, the lights on those poles tend to shift, And ever so often, we need to go back at night to do some refocusing of the lights in relation to the center of the fields. And we would have started the process of doing that as long as we are aware that there's an issue with the lights. We tend to go in and fix that. I think I'm familiar with the location that you're talking about in Husbands. I believe that you need facilities for changing. And we, this financial year, will pay a visit to the location and see how best that we can facilitate your request in terms of having washroom facilities, changing facilities at that location. As it relates to the community center, I remember doing a site visit with you. So I would allow my officers, Mr. Matthias first, to speak on the matter of the lights, and then the Chief Community Development Officer, Mr. Hollingsworth, to deal with the community center issue for you.
Good morning again, Nicholas Matthias, National Sports Council. In terms of the lighting focus, I believe you probably may be referencing to Haynesville, Pastor. If I do, what happens there is that is both a cricket and a football, Pastor. Football actually asks for a different lighting setup to cricket. So what happens, we adjust the lights for football, and then cricket season, if they have a late and night match, we have to readjust for them. What we are going to do as well, we have to do some electrical upgrades to the pavilion so that we can get some extra lights on the pole, so that we can get that focus, so we don't have to be having that adjustment between from one sport to the next. Also at the Desmond Haynes ground, that has some of the older lights, and as you would have heard the minister said, we have ordered new lights, and they are earmarked to get that upgrade as well. Pardon? No, this financial year you get them, because the lights are due in Barbados by the end of this month, and in the new financial year, that upgrade at Desmond Haynes will come. In terms of access to changing rooms, maybe you can let me know which facility specific. I think the minister may know. This is the Oxnard Tower Court, I believe you're talking about. So we'll look into that because this is, I've heard this question come up before, but we definitely look into that, and outside of this forum, I will get back to you and let you know how the plans for that will be brought to fruition.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is John Hollingsworth. I'm the Chief Community Development Officer, Community Development Department. The Community Development Department is very much aware of the need for community center facilities within the constituency of St. James South. I just happen to live in the constituency. And, we recognize that not only St. James South, but also St. James Central is in need of a similar facility. We have looked at some prospective venues, namely the old St. John the Baptist School, which is located on Holders Hill. And to my mind, that's the most ideal location. The only challenge that I would present is one of parking, given that it's on the main artery. But we have, in spite of the fact that a final decision hasn't been taken, we did put some funds in the estimate to ensure that that particular void is addressed in St. James South and St. James Central, because the closest community centers today will be Weston, as well as Eden Lodge, which are some distance apart, and the constituencies or the populations within the communities in Torrance Village, Holders Hill, Haynesville is very significant. So we do recognize the urgent need for this facility, and we're working towards that.
I thank you very much. Now, one perennial problem that we've experienced, and I'm hoping that in your estimates and your plans going forward, you have come up with a way in which it will be addressed. And this is a matter of maintenance. A lot of the fields become less than optimal for play, whether you're talking about cricket or football, etc. The maintenance on the equipment. We have struggled in St. James South to be able to have the fields cut. Sometimes we can have a foot and more of grass. And we have to be calling constantly, when can we get this cut? So I want to know what maintenance program and what resources have been allocated to try to wrestle this to the ground, because it leads to that irritant that the community feels and impacts on their sense of well-being, because they cannot at will go out and enjoy and use the facilities. And this leads to idle hands having nothing to do, which is very dangerous for our country. So the maintenance is a big issue, and we would like to know what has the ministry put in place this year to improve and upgrade the maintenance and regular cleaning, regular cutting, regular maintenance of the sports pavilions, and so on. Mine is still in need of some help. Even though we've sought to help ourselves, we're still awaiting some help with our sports pavilion.
Honourable Minister, it seems as if you were in my management meeting. The first management meeting this year, I have asked the Sports Council to put a detailed maintenance plan in place that will allow us not to have the complaint that you're coming with now, that all of the fields across the island, whether they're divided in zones, will be able to have regular maintenance in terms of cutting of the grass and taking care of the facilities. In addition to that, similar to community development, I have asked the National Sports Council to put center management committees in place at all of our pavilions that will allow a team or a grouping from within the community to be able to feed back information to the National Sports Council in relation to issues with the property and the playing field as well. But I will allow again Mr. Matthias to expand on this for you.
Good morning again. As the minister correctly said, he would have given us some instructions about getting a maintenance schedule in place. And we have started that procedure in terms of having assignments of persons inspecting and investigating each field/facility, and a checklist that they will walk with and that they will fill out to make sure that it is submitted, so that we better able to monitor and all our fields or our facilities, so that it doesn't get out of hand, like you said just now. That system is in place, and I'm proud to say it has started to work. So we do have the equipment to do it. It is just that at certain points in the year, specifically, let me give you an example this year, when it's around the athletic season, second term of school, a lot of schools themselves ask for that equipment. No excuse for us not being able to get to all of our fields, but there's a huge shift in the dynamic of us sticking to that schedule, because there are schools and there are other entities that ask for those cuts. So it puts a bit of pressure on the schedule that we have right now. And as soon as we get the request for the cutting of the schools for athletics and stuff like that out of the way, we return to the schedule for our regular cutting and the regular maintenance of our fields. Yeah, so we do have enough equipment, and we always make sure the equipment is in good shape. And going forward, that is the additional schedule with the inspections will help us to alleviate that problem.
My third follow-up question continues to look at the issue of making provision for people to be able to use the facilities, and providing them in the first place, maintaining them in the second place, and the third is providing the sports coaches to actually come and do the training at the community level. Now, I know that you've started such a program. I just wanted to get an update on where you are in terms of providing coaches in the communities to allow for the young people to effectively use for their exercise and enjoyment, and also to be able to identify some that have potential to go on to be professional athletes. So if you could share with us.
All right, thank you, Minister. Yes, we have put measures in place to do exactly what you're asking. The community coaches program is one that we felt is necessary in order to boost what is happening with the coaches that are employed at the National Sports Council. And the community coaches program revolves around us identifying individuals from within the communities all across the island, going through the first phase of training, let's call it level 1, where they will be able to do the basics of coaching. We send them back into the communities to find a grouping of 12, 15, however many youngsters to do coaching with that particular group. It is twofold. One, it is providing a structured activity for those youngsters, and two, it is giving these fledgling coaches an opportunity to hone their skills in terms of coaching. After a period of time, it is proposed that we come back and we upskill them again, where they now move to another level of coaching. Because I believe, and I've also always said from the time I sat in the chair, that if we're gonna have world-class athletes, then we must match them to world-class coaches. And hence, we are trying to make sure that we have a wide group of individuals who will be involved in the community coaches program, because for me right now, too many of our fields are dormant in the sense that on evenings, there are no activities taking place in terms of youngsters. So if we can have the community coaches program up and running, then I think that we will be doing something positive in terms of, one, adding some skills to the coaching fraternity, and two, providing structured activities for those youngsters. You mentioned taking care of the facilities. Even though it is sports, I'm going to allow, because the center management committees were started at CDD, but as mentioned before, I have asked the National Sports Council to mimic what is happening at community development so that we can have those center management committees in place. And I'm going to ask Ms. Kia Hines to give you some information about the center management committees and exactly how they're supposed to function.
Good morning, everyone. Kay Hines, Deputy Chief Community Development Officer. The vision of the Community Development Department is to build strong and vibrant communities across Barbados through several programming initiatives. A key element of implementing these initiatives is to ensure that our community and resource centers are open for extended hours. In 2021, following an internal examination of the department, a cabinet paper was written for the establishment of the center management committees. The key objectives are to have a cadre of trained volunteers at the community level to assist with the programming of the community centers, and also to ensure that our community and resource centers are open for extended hours. In 2023, 4 center management committees were formed at Rice's, St. Elizabeth, Dratsall, and the Greens Resource Centers. Over the last 3 years, the committees have done several initiatives at the community level. For example, health fairs, partnering with other organizations, the DEO within the communities, and being involved in a number of Christmas initiatives. Today, the department has formed a total of 14 center management committees throughout the island. And we are intensively working to have the other 20 plus committees formed at the various community and resource centers. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I trust that I will be hearing good results in terms of the center management for St. James South. This would be important to us, and we can speak offline about an update on that. And let me thank the team. You have such an important role to play in moving Barbados forward, and so you have our fullest support in relation to your work. Our ministry looks forward to also working with you very closely in helping to develop practitioners and persons who can engage at the community level and to be able to strengthen what you're doing, because it is good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Member for St. Michael Northwest.
Thank you. Good morning to all. Minister, I am acting on behalf of the good people of St. Michael Northwest and the Deacons community and surrounding areas. And my concern this morning relates to the Deacons Development Center being put back into good use to benefit the youth across the constituency. And I would like to know what plans your ministry has in relation to actually rebirthing this community center, the Deacons Development Center. It have been out of operation for a long time, and I know a lot transpired in between that time in terms of having it transferred from housing to the Ministry of Education, and presently now under the Ministry of Sports and Community Empowerment. And I can say that Deacons is a sporting community. That facility have great potential in being able to become the first youth hub or youth development center to benefit the youth across this constituency. And I want to know what plans your ministry has to really put this facility back into use to benefit the good people across my constituency.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You are correct. I believe it was late last year, we had a site visit with the Barbados Vocational Training Board. The site visit was for us to see the facility, and it was indicated then that we would be again in control of the facility at Deacons. Unfortunately, at the time of the visit, it was outside of, or it was not included in our budget for the financial year. And you are correct, I see it as possibly the first youth center on island based on that tour of the facility. And rest assured that plans will be in train to make sure that we can bring it back to what it was before. I know there's several entities from within your constituency that were utilizing the location, including, I think it was a gym that was at the location. So I think that yes, under community development, we can build it out and use it as a training hub, not only for your constituency, but for the island as a whole. And if we can have several of the ministry's satellite programs happening at your location, I think it would be another training hub in relation to maybe hospitality and vocational training in another sphere. So rest assured that plans are in train to utilize the facility. Like I said, I have an idea that it should be a youth center. Youth is no longer under me, but I think I can work in concert with the minister in terms of community development to make sure that the facility don't remain dormant.
Thank you. You also know that that said facility also has a pasture connected to it. And in relation to the maintenance of that particular pasture and a few others across the constituency, to mention like Furners, they also have like the Ellerslie School pasture as well. One of the things that I had requested previously was to have the lakes upgraded on that pasture. And prior to that, I had also requested back as far back as 2018 to also have lakes installed on Ellerslie School pasture to benefit that community as well. Could you tell me if having those lakes upgraded and the lakes installed on Ellerslie pasture would be possible within this financial year?
will have to speak to my team in relation to Ellerslie. Look, you would have heard mentioned by Mr. Matthias that one of the locations identified for lights, the Lord School, and that came up from the time that I was at the ministry, and I indicated to them to pause, because the truth is that, yes, lights may be required, but I don't think the impact will be that great at Lord School as other areas. So I decided to pause the lights at Lodge until I can impact on other communities that are in real need of lights. You mentioned the pasture, and immediately I remember a meeting with the BFA where the international body is looking to develop what they calling mini playing fields at specific locations. One was identified at the Queen Elizabeth location, but that we since had to shelve that. And maybe your location at Deacons is fit for purpose now that we can move one of those small playing fields at the location, because the president came back to us sometime early this year to say that they're ready to go. And if it is the case that we can press the location in place, then yes. As far as the lights, I would allow Mr. Matthias to speak on the possibility of you having lights at Ellerslie. But note that we are trying to make sure that we place lights at locations that will have a significant impact in terms of the use of that particular location and the target population that we're trying to hold on to. Mr. Matthias?
Good morning again. To answer both the questions, as I had said earlier, we have some lights coming in that we would have ordered for the continuous upgrade of the facilities. So definitely Deacon's Pasture will be part of that upgrade in terms of the lighting. I will talk to the minister and my team regarding the lights at Ellerslie Secondary. It was not part of our original scope, but as the minister just said, we will meet and sit down and come to understanding how we can best assist with that.
Thank you, sir, and having them installed will be much appreciated. Thank you.
So noted.
Thank you. Honourable Member for Christchurch West Central.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, you have been recognized in your team as the best sporting team ever in Barbados. You yourself, and rightfully so, one of the best sporting ministers that we have seen grace our country. My question, unlike the others, does not have a parochial sense of appreciation, although it was initiated in the fulcrum of Christchurch, the great constituency of Christchurch West Central. It is a question that speaks nationally and otherwise to us having a sporting academy facility, whether it is concentrated on one particular sport or multi-sport in nature. Because over the years, athletes, and we know this, we have produced the likes of Obadeli Thompson, Sadia Williams, you're looking at the not too distant past, and Ryan Braffett, world-class hurdler. We have produced great athletes. But the question has often been asked about having proper provisions. We are now living in an era of biomechanics. We have introduced science at a high level, the kinematics, all these things that are now injected into increasing the performance of athletes around the world. It's in my head that F Barbados is supposed to produce competitive athletes, top performers in the way that other countries are doing. I would think that, Minister, that the conversation must now surround itself with us having equally top-performing facilities. Is there any plan in your ministry to have a sporting facility where the young footballer in Gaul Hill could go and have a school or facility from morning to evening, whatever, where he doesn't have to go work, come home tired, and rush to play a practice on evenings after he's tired from work, where he will learn all these different things I discussed previously, where, in other words, we produce the holistic and top performer as it relates to our athletes in Barbados. Is there this plan to have this facility? And if so, can you expound on the importance of having these things so that our athletes can compete with the best in the world? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Minister. It is a destination that we're hoping to reach. I agree with you. We are on all fours that the world is moving to technology now where every single thing is being plugged into different devices to ensure that best results are coming out at the other end. In terms of having a facility, I think it would be an ideal situation to have maybe a school where our youngsters can go to that particular school, do schoolwork, and train as far as the athletics are concerned. But plans are in place. Only recently, Miss was here in Duval, and I think that we must now work parallel to Miss in terms of trying to identify the necessary technology that we can put in place that will benefit our athletes. And this is athletes on the whole, not only track, because really and truly the world is moving at a pace where technology is embedded in every single thing now as far as sports is concerned. So I take your point, and like I mentioned at the very beginning, it is a destination that we're hoping to reach. And I believe that we can also work with the University of the West Indies because there is a partial high performance, speaking subject to correction, high performance center at the University of the West Indies by Dr. Rudolph Allen. And we're going to revisit that to see how the ministry can work along with the University of the West Indies to make sure that we have podium finishes as a regular in the international athletic setup. I hope I am.
Thank you, Minister. I look forward to us getting to that destination. And to finally say that sports and medicine are unequivocally linked. We just have to look and see what's happening in terms of the doping situation across the world. And I think it's equally important for athletes to be aware, to have the knowledge and be informed about even say simple basic food products that tend to raise the red flags when they go on the international meets, etc. So I look forward to the day that we can get to that stage. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Christchurch East.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minister, allow me to join the chorus, not to fluff your ego, but mine is out of actual earned gratitude. So I want to start by thanking you and your team, a number of whom I personally know, for working hard with me over the last couple of years to help realize some of the dreams of people that I represent. So I want to start by thanking you for that. Now, I heard your comments in relation to the question by the Honourable for St. James Central South, St. James South.
in relation to fields and maintenance and whatnot. Now, is there any thought given to the decentralization of the maintenance oversight? Let me explain. It is all of us have a headache. You have a field in your constituency that you want cut, that they got something going on, a football match about to happen, a cricket match happening, the field hasn't been cut. People seem to have not known that it has not been cut. And then you're scrambling and you can't get the equipment somewhere else, or there's only one tractor working or whatnot. Now, I understand this has been a model for a while. I do believe that a more useful model would be to put some of the maintenance for community fields in the communities. So if you have a group of persons, a lot of persons in communities do the bushing and do maintenance and whatnot as part of successive government programs to keep people employed. But if you have people who are capable of maintaining the fields, if you live in a community, you know the field ain't cut. You pass it on a day, you see the grass a foot long, you know a football match coming up, right? They're the people most perfectly positioned to actually maintain the grounds on behalf of the National Sports Council. It removes a headache from you. And frankly, if you have community-based persons, qualified community-based persons, who are supposed to be maintaining the field, and everybody knows they're supposed to be maintaining the field, and they don't do it, then that, quite frankly, does not blow back on you in a way that it does now. So I'm wondering if there has been any consideration given to awarding contracts to those persons such that they can actually procure their own equipment. They will have to be able to maintain their own equipment. They will have to be able to make a rotating schedule to deal with the fields in their catchment areas. And then y'all can provide oversight on supervision. So as opposed to trying to find a tractor to send down to parish land, you could put Mr. Matthias in a vehicle and let him drive around to parish land and Silver Sands and Ferry Valley and whoever else to make sure that they actually are cut. One person instead of a lot more. Has consideration being given to that, and is that something that we can implement this financial year? I believe it will solve a lot of your problems.
Thank you, AG. I'm smiling because we try to be proactive in the ministry. It is unfortunate that maybe we have not reached you as yet, but I can assure you that all that you're asking for is already in place. I'm going to take this opportunity now as well to ask all members where there's a pavilion in your location, to submit names for that center management committee. Because in addition to our officers who are working at the location, the center management committees are supposed to do exactly what you're asking, to be able to interact with us at Central Ministry to say that X, Y, and Z should be put in place. But what you're asking for is already in place, where we have contracts being allocated to individuals from within communities. But I will allow Mr. Matthias to further expand.
Good morning, Nicholas Matthias, National Sports Council. I smiled as well when you were making that comment, along with the Minister. Thus far, we have 11 contractors, brand new contractors, that we've engaged to assist us in the maintenance of our fields. We started this this financial year, and I'm happy to report that it's working out well. So what we would have done, we would have assigned 6 fields to each contractor. We also would have started the program where they would more or less be given the startup tools, and based on how they work, they would pay back for the tools that we would have given for startup. Until they get their business to a level where the actual driving equipment, such as the mowers and stuff, come into play, we will assist them with the actual cutting of the surface, but they are responsible for the maintenance. Right now we have 11 teams that have already been assigned, and exactly as the Minister said, I would be very happy to engage anybody in the community who can also assist to this. And we can also have a discussion of this going forward so that we would know how best we can go ahead going forward.
Well, thank you. That's some good news there. So I want to expand that exact same thing a little bit further. So that's in relation to the fields. But in relation to the general upkeep as well of the plants, we had a very harmonious relationship where some community people ended up helping to finish off the parish land pavilion, and they did so proudly and it did what it was supposed to do, because if you go there on any given day, the property is being well kept. So people are taking a pride in making sure nobody don't drop garbage there, making sure nobody ain't writing at the walls, whatnot. So the community did it, and the community is policing it itself. Now, I did go to a pavilion recently, and somebody gave me the child to hold. And I held the child and I was stepping back. It was one of those pavilions where the step is concrete and then there are boards across for the seat. And if you place that. So the seating is planks, but the structure is step down blocks. And I stepped on a on a plank that was loose and almost gave way. And all I'm thinking about is, please don't let this woman child drop. Right? But equally in relation to the maintenance, it is hard once again, there are just too many sporting facilities in Barbados for you all to be able to adequately police it and monitor it. Like we are suggesting in relation to the upkeep of the fields, maybe we can again look at a policy where a costing is done, and then that goes out to the community as well. So you know it should take, I don't know, $10,000 to bring this here back up to scratch, right? You give the people $10,000 and they fix their pavilion or their sporting facility or replace this or replace that, and it takes it once again out of you. But based on the framework that you've laid out for the Center Management Committee, that is, I guess that is something that's being contemplated by them as well. Is it?
Very much so. One of the things that are, one of the requirements in relation to the setup of the Center Management Committees, because we're dealing with buildings, it is hoped or it is expected that at least one member of that committee would have some kind of knowledge in terms of construction or building, because then it would make it a lot easier when they're submitting reports to be able to identify, like you said, a plank that is loose. So all of that is embedded, and I will share the information with all members in terms of what is expected of those center management committees and the setup of the center management committees. The final thing in responding to you is that I think you're in a position to replace that baby if necessary.
Okay, and the last thing in this regard is, look, I think you should have a standard time for the opening of all facilities and a standard time for the closing of them. So if I decide that I want to go and scrimmage football, and I turn up and the field is available and I'm playing a game on it, I should be able to scrimmage, and if I have to go to the bathroom, know that the bathrooms are open until 8 o'clock. Right? It should not be that you have to go and look for somebody with a key to come down and open. Exercise doesn't work that. If you're trying to get people to use our facility, it's not, the things are not just there for cricket. The things are not just there for football. Once you put lights on a field, you see people come out there, start to walk. As you put on lights on a field, people will start exercise on it. A match might be going on or something might be going on, but people are still walking around the outskirts getting their exercise. So I believe we should have a schedule. You know this facility opens at 8 in the morning and it's open till 8 at night. The days of tracking down the caretaker for the key, I believe, should be gone. We're trying to get maximum use out of facilities. They should be open as long as possible every single day. So I want to know if you are looking at that. If you are not, I suggest that instead of just having the person who works, I don't want to think the caretakers actually work, to tell the truth. Right? But it should not be that somebody works from 10 to 4. Because nobody use the playing field between 10 and 4. right? People may use it in the morning early to get into exercise or run laps before going to work, and they're definitely looking to use the facilities when they come home. The sun goes on in Barbados way too early, right? I wish we had daylight saving time, but we don't have it, we have lights, so I thank you for those. But with the lights come the invitation to use the field after dark. So if that is our intention, then we need to put the facilities and the resources in place to ensure optimal utilization of all of our fields. We're trying to get our Bajans healthy, we're trying to get them fit. So it can be that my exercise is stymied by the fact that I can't find a groundsperson to help me my weak bladder. So what are you looking at in relation to that this year? And I believe it is a must.
Again, honorable member, plans are already there. The center management committees are supposed to kick in when my officers close at 4:30. The center management committees are supposed to take over from that time until 11:30 at night for exactly the same reason that you're identifying, that after work is the high use time for these facilities. So part of the onboarding for our center management committees is that when 4:30 and regular staff move away, then you will kick in terms of being able to provide opening hours for clubs, teams, like you said, people who just want to exercise at all of the locations. And this is the case for the community centers as well as the pavilions, because obviously people would need to use the washroom facilities, and from 4:30, the center management committees are supposed to take charge of the particular location. It is also part of their remit that if they figure there's a program that they need to put in place, that we will work with them to ensure. So if there's a guy who is prepared to do training for 50, 60 individuals at a particular playing field, then they can submit something and we will facilitate that as well. So that is the main purpose, or one of the main reasons for putting the center management committees in place across the island.
All right, thank you for that entirely. What I would say, don't hide your light under a bushel, right? The fact that you know that and your team is nodding and they know that, but half of Barbados does not know that, is not helping the half that does not know. And that's a excellent facility that you have, as you say, in place already. I think you should really publicize it so people know what capacity is there and how to access it.
Yeah, I take responsibility for that, and like I said, we will do the necessary pivot to make sure that all members are aware of the requirements as far as the center management committees are concerned.
Thank you very much, Minister, and your team. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Honourable Member for St. Peter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My first round of questions, well, the first question and a couple of follow-ups relate to sports development. I see the vote, I think, under 0563. And there is a sub-program or a category of expenditure under 315 grants to non-profit organizations. Now, sports development, I believe that you would agree, has a community component. I'm asking specifically related to an initiative of the Parish Organizing Committee, the Pearson Jordan Memorial Road Race. Pearson Jordan being a former Olympian, no relation to me as far as I'm aware, but a former Olympian who was born and grew up at Sand Street in Spite Sound. Is there a process for getting assistance in developing these community-birthed programs? I'm asking the question because we have had some assistance, but every year it seems to be a little bit uncertain. And what the chair and the committee
of the parish organizing committee and all those who work to organize this race, Memorial Road race, are attempting to find out is what is the structure so that we are clear. And I ask the question in this forum because I believe that there are others listening, other colleague members of parliament who may have similar programs or ideas that could be birthed at the community level and would want to be sure that they're following the correct procedure so that they can obtain the assistance that I see in your vote in that, under that head. If it comes from there or if it comes from the National Sports Council, we're not sure. But I'd like some clarity on how do we access the assistance that will allow a community birth sporting program to flourish.
Thank you for your question, Honourable Member. Yes, one of the things I want to say here is that this government would have done so much in relation to sports development. For the first time in our history, and I dare say probably in the Caribbean, coming out of COVID, government would have provided every single NF, every single national federation with $25,000 in seed money to do development program or to engage in developing their particular discipline. In addition to that, an additional $5,000 in kind was provided to clubs that were affiliated with the national federations. And this went a long way in terms of helping sports to come back from COVID. In terms of your question now, I would say to you, yes, the ministry is constantly being asked to facilitate community projects that we think are wholesome. Then yes, we readily agree to fund some of those programs. If the ask is too big for the ministry to handle at a particular time, then we do referrals to the Arts and Sports Fund. But I will ask Mr. Rowe to give you some more details in terms of the process as to how your particular organization or entity in your constituency can source funding through the Ministry of Sports.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning. My name is Stephen Rowe, Sports Development Officer in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment. Sorry, Sports and Community Empowerment. Now, the application process for such activities is that the entity writes to the ministry, first address the correspondence to the permanent secretary, articulating the nature of their event with all the specifics. And when I say all the specifics, the principles, the objectives, what funds they are seeking, what funds they are sourcing otherwise, and how they plan to execute the event. And the reason I say all of the information is because when some of the information is missing and it comes to the ministry, then the ministry has to reach back out to the individuals, the applicants, to request that additional information. And that process leads to delays. Once that information is complete, it is evaluated within the ministry, and where, as far as possible, some assistance is given. The ministry is normally inundated with applications, so notwithstanding you may have seen some in our estimates, we try as best as possible to stretch that as far as possible. As Minister would have indicated, where the ask is larger than the sums that we can provide, we normally channel that application to the Arts and Sports Promotion Fund. The applicants also have the option of writing directly to the Arts and Sports Promotion Fund, where it would be addressed to the chairman of the Arts and Sports Promotion Fund, Bay Street, St. Michael, Government Headquarters, Bay Street, St. Michael, And the same type of information would obtain, ensure that the application is complete, because where it's not, then the secretary of that committee would have to be writing back or calling back the applicant for that additional information. Once the information is complete, it is considered by a committee, the Arts and Sports Promotion Fund Committee, which makes recommendations to the fund manager, who then takes the final decision on what level of funds would be granted. And those responses are then communicated to the applicant. So that's the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One follow-up question to that. Do you have a time frame? Assuming that you have all the information, and I'm referring now to the ministry and not to the Arts and Sports Fund. Assuming that the ministry receives all of the information that is required, this is in the communication addressed to the permanent secretary, what is the approximate turnaround time? That is important information because planners need to have some kind of idea of when they're going to get a response when setting dates for activities.
I would say to you, Honourable Member, as long as all of the information is in place, 2 weeks should be a good time in relation to having a response from us about the request that came for assistance.
Thank you very much. I'm hoping that that is not just your response, but your response on behalf of your ministry. That is to say that the officers are aware of that turnaround time. Now, if I ask another follow-up, and this continues to speak to community involvement in sports development, there was a response made with respect to the maintenance of fields. Now, I heard, let me indicate why I'm asking this. I'm asking it for the same reason, I believe, as the Honourable Attorney General, who spoke to locating maintenance in communities. What I thought I heard was that for some of the persons who have been allocated contracts, some have 6 playing fields. Now, there is no community in St. Peter that has 6 fields. So it means that if what I heard was correct, somebody from somewhere outside of the community is clearing or maintaining a playing field in the community. I've asked the ministry before, and I use the example of the Whitehall playing field, where the club, one of the 2 clubs that would be the main users of the field, saw an opportunity to both maintain the field and also get some resources to help in its own development. But that would be a single field because there's only one field in the Whitehall, mile and a quarter area. My question as a follow-up with respect to developing sports in communities, how can we facilitate clubs or other organizations within communities in maintaining the grounds and also being able to access funding? So by way of contract, how do we do that? Assuming that what I heard about allocating 6 fields is correct.
The easy answer to that, Honourable Member, is for the club to make representation to the National Sports Council, indicating that it is their desire or they're interested in doing exactly what you're saying, because we would not be aware that they have the wherewithal to actually do the maintenance of the location unless they would have submitted something indicating that this is something that we are proposing to do as not only self-help, but to source maybe funding or additional funding for that particular club. So as long as the community group or the club that is functioning at the location make representation to the Sports Council to indicate that we can do X, Y, and Z, then as far as possible, we will try to facilitate that.
All right, thank you very much. And the club will be making the necessary application and will obviously monitor the response. My final follow-up with respect to community and developing sports in the community. There was also discussion earlier about the center management committees. You have indicated that we should submit the names. My own experience, and this may be related to community centers, I'm not sure, I have to double check, but I became aware of a center management committee. I'm not sure if it's a community center, but the members of that committee in one or two cases were not known to me, so obviously not submitted through the Member of Parliament or the Office of the Member of Parliament. I understand that 14 committees have been set up so far, and this is with respect to sports, so these are pavilions. And my question is, are any of those 14 in St. Peter? I just want to know what's already done so that I don't try to redo something that's already done. And I think you will understand why I'm asking, what I'm trying to say by asking that question as well.
I will ask the Deputy Chief Community Development Officer to respond to you.
Ms. Hines, Deputy Chief Community Development Officer. Yes, one of those center management committees is indeed in St. Peter at the Boston Bell Community Center.
Thank you very much. That is what, Mr. Chair, I need to do a follow-up because that is the one I already know about. The question really related to the pavilions, which I think, when I wrote down the note, 14 done so far, I think it was said by, but I thought it was said in relation to pavilions. Are you saying that the 14 related to community centers?
These are around the entire island.
Okay, so one community center, but there are no pavilions that already have. So we are not to submit for the pavilions. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I yield back until you do your second round.
Sorry, Minister, I think you have one facility that is dual purpose, if I am correct. So you may not need to submit one for the pavilion if the community center is in place. I'm speaking subject to correction, but I think one of your facilities is a...
Yes, that is Black Bess, where there's the pavilion on the east and upper and the resource center on the ground floor and to the west.
Okay, it will be sorted. I will be in contact with you.
Thank you, Honourable Member for St. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me begin by thanking the Honourable Minister for his forthright contribution to the committee this morning. And let me congratulate him and his team for the excellent work that you have been doing, working with the sporting organizations to ensure that the government does not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. I certainly, from my experience with dealing with you, Minister, and many of your team, have felt that the ministry has been working hard to ensure that sporting organizations in Barbados can continue to survive. Indeed, we are very happy in the community of St. Thomas that the Bridgefield facility, the Ministerial there has had its fair share of the pie, and we look forward to continuing the work to develop the facility there. In the Jackson area, West Jackson, St. Michael, which also happens to be part of the constituency in St. Thomas, there's a thriving sporting community that uses the facility at the hard court there. They've had a very prominent basketball and volleyball team set up there for a little while. But for many, many years, they lacked any bathroom facilities and any other facilities at all. So my concern is, to what extent can the ministry or the sports council work with the community to secure the necessary funding through fundraising, engaging in the corporate communities around the area that sponsor these teams to develop facilities that would allow people to practice and recreate in a dignified manner without having to go to use, in local terms, the bush or behind a car or something to relieve themselves, or have to go home in order to relieve themselves. It is my view that that facility could be developed to the extent you can even put bleachers with some kind of roof structure on it, solar panels, lights, to create the all-weather type environment for the sports that use the facility in Jackson to be able to participate and fully in, because as Honourable Member for Christchurch East says, the sun goes down very quickly in Barbados, and you have a short window of opportunity after leaving work to get home, to get to the sporting or community facility. So therefore, and if the rain falls, that's the end of the day for you. So what plans do you have to develop that facility, if at all? I know there's been talk about using the containers and getting them in. Those will certainly be cheaper to install and to maintain than building out a concrete structure. But we want to know how possible would it be for the ministry or the sports council to engage with the community to build out that facility there.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You're absolutely correct. One of the things that we would have discovered in the ministry is that the bricks and mortar solution as it relates to the pavilions are proven to be very, very expensive. And we have looked at as you rightly mentioned, the container solutions in terms of being able to do something that is quick and something that is still very much adequate for the purpose that we intend it to be. So to have your location come up to scratch, so to speak, what we will do is to organize with you to do a site visit to see what is possible in relation to your location. As far as the lights are concerned, let me state again that government is absolutely committed that wherever the playing fields that we believe lights will benefit that community, that over the course of time, we will install lights to make sure that we have best results in terms of a structured environment for our young people, not only the young, because we know that there's some seniors who utilize these facilities as well for exercising purpose. So I can assure you, Honourable Member, that we will contact you and organize that site visit, because I'm not familiar with the location myself, but my team will organize with you to do a site visit and to see what is the best possible solution for your location in terms of lights and in terms of having a pavilion that your youngsters or the community can utilize.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The community in Jackson would well appreciate that site visit, and indeed the community centre in Jackson would also need a little bit of a facelift, and I'm sure the Honourable Member for St. Michael Northeast would join me in saying that it would go a long way to facilitate the progress initiatives that have been birthed in the community in the Jackson area. There are community centers in St. Thomas that are a bit dormant. the community center at Rock Hall, a previous administration had turned it into a court. And since about 2018, the court has gone to King Garden. That facility has not been turned back over to the community. And the Rock Hall Community Center was indeed a vibrant part of community life for the whole parish, because at one stage it was the only community center in the parish of St. Thomas. The housing settlements at Rock Hall and Content are getting larger and larger. Indeed, there's another set of housing being put in by the developer on the southern side of the road at Content. And therefore, I would like to know what are the plans for the development of that facility? When can it be turned over to the community? And I'm indeed very titillated by the idea of the community management teams that you mentioned. I've already contacted my people to ask them to start to submit the names, Minister. I'm very happy that you have brought that to us and invited us to compile these things. But the community center at Rock Hall needs to be re-engaged and redeployed back into the community. And my people will be very happy to know when that can happen.
I'm going to ask the chief to speak to this, but I want to say to you that one of the things I have asked community development to start this financial year is a quest to see how many community groups we can have in place again on island. Because I think it is absolutely necessary, not only for self-help, but to have community groups alive and well and utilizing our community centers is one of the main priorities for the Community Development Department this year. Because not only will it then benefit our young people, but some of the seniors who were engaged in a number of activities at one point in time in our community centers, it is really flat or dormant now, and we need to breathe some life into that again. So I have asked community development to ensure that part of our focus this year is to re-engage and to restart community groups all across the island. But I will allow the chief to speak to you as well.
Thank you, Minister. John Hollinsworth, Chief Community Development Officer. As it relates to the Rock Hall Community Center, the former D Court Complex, we are actively engaged in bringing that into use for the members of that particular community. We have just requested, and they have completed, a survey plan for the facility, because we need to know what the boundaries are, because there's a gentleman who operates nearby, and we don't want to encroach on any private property before we commence our work. We have actually completed had the architectural drawings completed. We would have had the scope of works completed as well. And funds are earmarked to complete that facility. Now that the site plan has been provided, plans are actually on course to start the work in the coming financial year, 2026 to 2027.
Just as a follow-up, Chair, thank you. I'm very happy to hear that the plans have been spec'd out and the budget has been allocated. The only challenge is that I don't think anyone in the community knows that that is happening. And certainly, it would be good if the community and Rock Hall and Content are brought on board at the soonest possible time to let them know what are the plans to roll the center, because at the end of the day, it is the center that will be used by the community. And while you're improving it, and we look forward to the improvements, there's land around the facility that I believe may be owned by the state and not necessarily by the people who are occupying it during the private activities that you have there. In fact, some of them have even approached to find out, I think you might be talking about the auto body mechanics that operate around the area. They too are interested in having some facility where they can actually do some training for some of the youth in the community in that area there, and they're keen on it as well. And in fact, they have approached to ask whether or not the state would be interested in facilitating their continued use of the land adjacent that way to the west of the community center. So that when we have this site visit, I think we should perhaps arrange to have some unveiling of the plans that the ministry has for the reopening of the center. It would be good to have the community to buy back in with that. My next question in relation to the community center is consent center in Upper Dunscombe Hill. There's this very small community center that was built many years ago, but it has not been maintained at all. It's not a very large facility, but it does service the Dunscombe, Canefield communities up the hill, where there are no playing fields nor facilities for two very tight-knit communities in Canefield and in Upper Dunscombe. And last week I would have mentioned to one of my colleagues about the lack of community facilities in areas in rural Barbados that are cut off. So I just want to know if you have any plans for that facility in Upper Dunscombe, what we call Dunscombe Hill, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you again. The facility you're referring to on Dunscombe Hill is not actually owned by the state. That is owned by for want of a better word, an NGO that was built some years ago through assistance from one of our construction firms. It is Hillview, I think his name was the club, but yes, that's Hillview. And I would have known that through another occupation that I was involved in at that particular time. What we would have to do where that is concerned is seek possibly to acquire it or some other means, or to assist the owners of the facility to turn it into a functioning facility so that the members of that particular community would be able to benefit from its use once again.
I'm glad to hear that being clarified, because it is now in a state of disrepair, and we would not want it to fall into the wrong hands or the wrong elements. The doors and windows are off. There's no electricity, so we know what is going to happen there if we don't make sure that, but it will be vital to have it brought back into service for the community. It's very well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my time.
Honourable member, just to follow, I'll ask the PS to speak on the area that you mentioned in terms of your constituents not knowing about some of our programs. She will share some information with you.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Joy Adamson, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Sports and Community Empowerment. We do have a Community Development Department community canvas that is being aired now on CBC at 8 o'clock on Tuesdays. We had a similar program called Bridges before with the youth. So we are advertising a lot of the programs happening at the community centers. And what I will make sure to do is coming up then in future programs that we highlight the Rock Hall area so that that is known to the community.
Thank you.
Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I beg to move that you do now report progress to His Honor the Speaker and beg leave to sit again.
The question is that I do now report progress to His Honor the Speaker and beg for leave to sit again. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Chairman has reported progress and requests leave to sit again. Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the House until 20 minutes past 12.
The question is that this honourable chamber be suspended until 20 after 12. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it. This honourable chamber stands suspended until 20 after 12.